Back at the start of the millennium, when Bill Clinton was still US president and the Spice Girls were still actually together, the concept that you could pay a complete stranger to go and pick up your food for you, have them do your shopping, drop off your laundry, or drive you somewhere in their own personal car would have been alien to you. Although, let's be honest, the me of 2000 was still rocking a short back and sides and spending hours online trying to figure out what the blazers was wrong with me. I also thought I was cool because I spent all of my savings on a Nokia communicator so that I could talk to my deaf sister when I was at music college. Netscape Navigator was still a thing, and most people still had dial-up internet. And I didn't even have a driving licence yet because I happened to be going to music college in London and my family back home didn't own a car. How times have changed. And if you remember the millennium like it was yesterday, then congratulations, you're old too. The 20 plus years that have passed since then and now have seen us all become incredibly dependent on the internet, smartphones, and the concept of instant gratification. And that's allowed a brand new industry to grow, the gig economy, an industry which last year in the US alone was worth about $350 billion. What's more, according to Pew Research, 9% of US adults today are either current or recent gig workers, meaning they've earned at least some money through an online gig platform in the past year. And while there are plenty of gig economy workers who do not use a vehicle to carry out that gig work, especially those who are working at home on specific tasks they can accomplish at a computer, the majority of gig economy jobs that come to mind require you to have some form of transportation, be it a bicycle, motorcycle, car, van, or sometimes even a truck. So today I'm going to look at why, in today's climate of rising gas prices and rising inflation, the gig economy needs electric vehicles more than ever before. Why, if you're looking to get into gig economy, an EV is probably the best choice for you. And finally, why, so far, despite the best efforts of some people, EVs haven't caught on yet in the gig economy world. But first, a quick reminder that if you like our mixture of sarcasm, wit and fact, we would love it if you consider hitting subscribe and the notification bell, as well as checking your notification preferences for this channel. And if you want to go one step further, just stick around until the end and I'll tell you the ways you can help us grow and pay our bills. As I just said, the gig economy is huge. And because it's easy to get into and get out of, the gig economy just keeps growing, fueled by tech startups who treat their gig workers as independent contractors rather than employees. The onus is put on the individual, not the corporation behind the service or the app. Working your own hours and in your own way might sound great on paper, but the reality is that there are a butt-ton of hidden costs associated with gig economy work, especially if there's a car involved. And look, I don't want to get into the legal wranglings between legislatures and megacorporations like Uber and Lyft and Labour advocates in this particular video. Suffice to say, there's a patchwork of legislation coming in across the US at both state and federal level that either demands gig economy workers be treated as regular employees with all of the usual benefits that come from a regular paid job, or say that they must be treated as the independent contractors the companies say they are, and thus be responsible for paying all of their own taxes and have no access to things like sick pay, paid leave, or other benefits. As is often the case, the megacorporations, with their seemingly bottomless pockets for lobbying efforts, have the upper hand for now, even though we don't know ultimately where the legislature will end up at a national level when it comes to gig economy workers. What we can say for sure, though, is that if you rely on a car to do said gig economy jobs, it's probably the hardest it's ever been. Of course, some of that is down to the amount of money that gig economy workers get for doing the thing that they are being paid to do. But the majority of it comes down to the sheer cost of keeping a car on the road. You know, paying to keep your car clean, paying to service it, and of course, fueling it. And as the illegal invasion of Ukraine by Russia continues, the price of oil around the world has surged. Sure, some governments have tried to alleviate the stress of rising fuel costs with temporary reductions in tax on gasoline, while others have issued authorizations to use winter fuel mixers in the summer, relying on excess stored gasoline to help get through the crisis. And yes, while there is now mounting evidence to suggest that rising prices have less to do with Russia and more to do with profiteering, it is impacting the prices of goods and services that we consume. And for rideshare drivers, or transportation network entities, that's TNEs as the government likes to call them, how much they can take home. A recent survey on the Rideshare Guy blog revealed that nearly one half of rideshare workers, that's people who primarily work for Uber, Lyft, and food delivery services like Grubhub, DoorDash, and Uber Eats, have either cut back their work or quit completely in the last month because the price of gasoline makes their job impossible to continue. And while some gig economy companies are trying to help drivers out by adding surcharges to each job to try and help compensate those drivers for increased gasoline prices, most gig economy workers are finding that they're paying as much as 57 US cents more per hour on simply fueling their vehicle compared to this time last year. In fact, in the last month alone, gas prices in the US have jumped more than 18%. EV ownership, as proven time and time again by many studies though, is far cheaper on a long-term basis than internal combustion engine vehicle ownership. But that, of course, depends on the fact that you can afford the initial outlay of an EV. What's more, as proven everywhere from London to Bengaluru, people who drive day in and day out for their job report less stress and less fatigue, both mental and physical, when they drive an electric vehicle over an internal combustion engined one. And even if you're working for a rideshare company for a few hours every night, as many people with young families or unexpected bills needing some extra income do, driving an EV is a far more pleasurable and much cheaper experience than a gasoline car. And with most EVs on sale today doing 200 to 300 miles, 321 to 482 kilometers per charge, those who are lucky enough to have overnight charging may not even need to stop to rapid charge during the day. And of course, if you can do that, you'll spend far less on charging than you would if you could only charge at public charging stations. Because, as we all know, DC charging is very much more expensive than just using a granny lead. Spending less money on fuel, plus sometimes even avoiding things like congestion charging because you're in an EV, makes your life as an independent business person far less stressful. And for gig economy companies, there's significant benefits of their drivers going electric too. For a start, there's the public image. A company that's encouraging its not employees to drive a clean green electric car is a company that will be far more favourably viewed by customers as doing the right thing. Down that path, of course, lines greenwashing, but when has that ever stopped a company? Coca-Cola? PepsiCo? I'm looking at you and your play to make consumers feel the burden of your plastic bottles, among other things. Gig economy companies that encourage their drivers to go electric also benefit from happier drivers because those drivers are likely earning more than their internal combustion engine colleagues. I mean, fellow independent contractors. And of course, happier drivers are less likely to ask for a pay rise because you're not paying them enough to start with. Gosh, I'm cynical. Clearly I've been around Kate Wadden-Elliott and her union-loving ways too long. Regrets? Do I have any? No. If there are significant benefits to gig workers going electric, and gig economy companies have ploughed millions of dollars into special partnerships designed to encourage drivers to go electric, complete with special bonuses for EV drivers, special lease deals, and even discounted EV charging, why aren't they catching on yet? Well, the answer is pretty simple. If you are driving for a gig economy service, you're either someone with extra time on their hands who's just on the lookout for a way to earn a little extra cash, Someone who doesn't want to or can't have a traditional 9-to-5 job and prefers the flexibility of gig economy work. Or someone who uses gig economy positions as a way to earn extra money to make ends meet, because your two other jobs, a teacher and part-time barista, don't make you enough money to afford your one-bedroom apartment because big tech companies keep setting up shop in your town and pushing the price of rent up. If you are in that first group, maybe you do already have an EV, or perhaps even own your own home and could have a dedicated charging station and off-street parking. But if you're in the second or the third group, well, it's not a given that you'll be able to afford a home of your own, let alone an EV. Especially if you're a millennial, a recent college graduate, or from a minority group that is still somehow discriminated against despite everyone telling you that racism and homophobia are no longer things. Rideshare companies could, if they really wanted to, help this all happen by encouraging legislators to work on policies that make it easier for apartment dwellers to get charging stations installed at a price that isn't exorbitant. They could help encourage cities and municipalities to change building codes to make EV charging a requirement rather than a nice-to-have luxury. And most importantly, they could work to encourage the adoption of programs that reward automakers for making truly affordable EVs, not just high-end models that few can easily afford. And yes, I know, now that I, as someone in their mid-40s who owns their own home and has a little disposable income, I can just about stretch my budget to get a more expensive EV. But the me of 2000? Or indeed, the me of 2010? The me that could have found herself working rideshare services, had they existed back then, to earn some extra pennies. I doubt that I could have afforded a long-range, highway-capable EV either. That's it for today. If you liked the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to leave your thoughts below or in our free to join Discord chat room. There are links in the description. And if you want to tell us how awesome we are without leaving YouTube, then why not try a super thanks? It's easy to pass on the love and all of your donations help the channel grow. Don't forget that we produce videos every single day on this network for you to enjoy, ranging from deep dives and features to tutorials, unboxings and reviews. And if you want the most comprehensive roundup of all of the news in the EV world on a weekly basis, set your clock for our 10 News Roundup show every Saturday. I even wear a blazer. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to this channel and our other channel, Transporter Volt Take 2, and give that bell a gentle ding to make sure you're told when our next video goes live. Thanks on behalf of the entire crew go out to the folks on my right for being our $15 to $49 a month supporters. Special thanks to our $50 a month supporters, Chris Maxwell, Bennett Elder, Brian Newton, Dave Kitchen, Michael Goad, Ricky Leon, Andrew Martin, Guido Drahota, Brophy Wolf, Tesla in the Gong, Gordon C., Stephen O'Donoghue, Carl Hodgson, Anthony Coates, Regine Fellows, Rory Litwin, Anonymous Freak, Jim Burness, Chris Ascenta and Denny Hyde, and our deepest gratitude to our $100 a month Patreon supporters, Marcel Ward, Reggie Watts, Joe Bresney, JP Fagerback, Will Grillin, Matthew Drobnak, John Lyons, Christopher Lee Jones, Andrew Glenn, Paul Conway, Laura Reynolds, Ellery Hensley, and Ian. If you would like to be part of this amazing list, you can join Patreon at the link below, hit the join button to support us on YouTube, or you can show us your support through Ko-fi or by buying something from our cool swag store. And if you are unable to support us financially, please just know that watching the video in its entirety and sharing it amongst your friends, family and co-workers, both in the real world and on social media, really makes a difference to how the company does. Thanks for joining me, and as always, keep evolving!